My beloved brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when we feel completely alone, thinking nobody sees our struggles, nobody understands our pain, and nobody realizes how close we came to breaking. But what if I told you that there were countless moments when Allah protected you without you even realizing it? Moments when danger was approaching you, but Allah turned it away before it could touch your life. Moments when your plans failed, your heart broke, or doors closed in your face, and you thought it was the end, while in reality, Allah was saving you from something far worse. Sometimes we become upset because things did not happen the way we wanted. We cry over missed opportunities, failed relationships, delayed dreams, and unanswered du'as. We question why Allah allowed certain things to leave our lives. But the believer must understand something very powerful. Allah sees what we cannot see. Human beings only know the surface, while Allah knows the unseen. There are people you trusted who may have destroyed your peace later. There are roads you wanted to walk that may have led you toward pain and regret. There are moments when Allah quietly redirected your life, because His mercy was surrounding you even when you did not notice it. You know, one of the greatest signs of Allah's love is not only what He gives you, but also what He protects you from. Sometimes Allah protects you through delays, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through closed doors. And because we only see the temporary pain, we fail to realize the hidden mercy behind it. Years later, you look back and finally understand why certain things never worked out. You finally realize that what felt like rejection was actually protection from Allah. There are accidents that never happened because Allah shielded you. There are sins you were about to fall into, but Allah pulled your heart away at the last moment. There are people who planned harm against you, but Allah protected your honor without you ever knowing. Every single day, Allah's mercy surrounds us in ways our eyes cannot even comprehend. The problem is that we often focus only on what we lost, instead of thanking Allah for what He saved us from. And perhaps today, while listening to this reminder, Allah wants your heart to understand that you have never truly been abandoned. Even in your darkest moments, Allah's invisible protection was always around you. Even when you cried thinking life was falling apart, Allah was writing a story filled with mercy behind the scenes. Sometimes the greatest blessings are the disasters Allah never allowed to reach you. There are countless moments in our lives when we think we are walking through this world alone, unaware that Allah's protection is surrounding us every single second. Human beings only see what is in front of their eyes. We see the problems we face, the disappointments we experience, and the pain we go through. But we do not see the dangers Allah quietly removes from our path every day. We do not see the accidents that could have happened but never did. We do not see the evil intentions of people that Allah protected us from. We do not see the sins we were about to fall into before Allah guided our hearts away. And because we cannot see these hidden mercies, we often forget how deeply Allah cares for us. Allah's protection is not always obvious. Sometimes it comes in ways we do not understand at first. A person may become upset because a plan failed, only to later realize that Allah was protecting them from disaster. Someone may cry over losing a relationship, while Allah knew that relationship would eventually destroy their peace and faith. A person may feel frustrated because a journey was delayed, not realizing that Allah may have saved them from harm they never knew existed. Human beings focus on what they lost, but Allah sees what He saved them from. Think about how many times you left your home safely and returned safely without even thinking about it. There are people all around the world who leave their homes and never return. Yet Allah protected you again and again. How many times were you driving on the road while danger passed right beside you without you even noticing? How many illnesses did Allah protect your body from without you realizing it? How many problems could have destroyed your life if Allah had not quietly intervened? Sometimes people only recognize Allah's protection after years have passed. At first they become angry, confused or heartbroken because life did not go according to their plans. But later, when they finally understand the bigger picture, they realize Allah was saving them all along. There are people who desperately wanted certain jobs but did not get them and later discovered those environments would have harmed their faith, mental health or future. There are people who begged Allah to keep someone in their life, but later realized that person would have caused endless pain and regret. At the time it felt like rejection, but in reality it was protection wrapped in temporary sadness. One of the beautiful things about Allah's mercy is that He protects believers even when they are unaware of the danger. A loving parent protects their child from harm because the child cannot always recognize what is dangerous. In an even greater and more perfect way, Allah protects His servants from things they cannot fully understand. Sometimes believers only see the closed door, while Allah sees the destruction behind that door. And not all protection is physical. Some of Allah's greatest protection is spiritual. There are moments when a person is very close to falling into a major sin, but Allah places discomfort in their heart and turns them away at the last moment. There are environments that could have slowly destroyed someone's iman, yet Allah removed them from those places before their hearts became completely lost. There are friendships that appeared harmless on the outside, but would have dragged the person further away from Allah over time. Allah protects hearts in ways people rarely notice. You know, one of the biggest problems today is that people often judge Allah's mercy only by what they receive. If they gain something, they call it a blessing. But if they lose something, they immediately think Allah is punishing them. Yet many times the greatest blessings are the things Allah prevented from entering your life. Sometimes what you call loss is actually mercy in disguise. Look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. When he was thrown into the well by his brothers, it looked like abandonment. When he was sold into slavery, it looked humiliating. When he was imprisoned unfairly, it looked painful and hopeless. But behind every hardship, Allah was protecting him and preparing him for something greater. If Yusuf alayhi salam had remained comfortable at home, he would never have reached the position Allah destined for him later. Sometimes Allah allows temporary pain because He is protecting your future in ways you cannot yet understand. Human beings become attached to their own plans very quickly. We think we know what is best for ourselves, but our knowledge is extremely limited. Allah sees what will happen years from now, while we only see what we want in the present moment. This is why believers are taught to trust Allah deeply, even when life becomes confusing. Because the one who controls everything knows what your eyes cannot see. There are people alive today who survived situations they should not have survived. Some escaped accidents by seconds. Some missed dangerous flights. Some walked away from situations that could have ended their lives. And many times they later realized that Allah's protection surrounded them in ways they never noticed before. But beyond physical protection, there are also emotional and spiritual disasters Allah saves people from every day. Sometimes Allah protects you by delaying your success. Imagine if Allah gave you fame, wealth, or power before your heart was ready. Perhaps it would have made you arrogant. Perhaps it would have distanced you from prayer and remembrance. Perhaps it would have destroyed your peace completely. So Allah delays certain blessings until the right time, because His wisdom is greater than human understanding. Even heartbreak can be protection. There are people crying today over relationships that ended, unaware that Allah removed someone from their life, because that person would have eventually caused greater suffering. At first, the heart cannot understand it. The pain feels unbearable. But years later, the believer looks back and thanks Allah for not allowing that relationship to continue. Sometimes Allah protects believers through hardship itself. Hardship humbles the soul. It brings people back to prayer. It softens hearts that became distracted by dunya. There are people who only became close to Allah after experiencing painful trials. If life had remained easy, they might have continued drifting away spiritually. So even difficulties can become a form of protection, because Allah cares more about your soul than your temporary comfort. And honestly, if Allah removed His protection from us for even a moment, we would not survive. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of safety is from Allah alone. The believer who truly understands this becomes more grateful, more humble, and more trusting toward Allah. The problem is that people often only focus on visible blessings. They thank Allah for money, success, or achievements, but they rarely thank Him for the disasters that never happened. Yet perhaps some of the greatest mercies in your life are the things you never even knew Allah protected you from. Imagine standing before Allah one day and discovering how many times His mercy shielded you from pain, destruction, humiliation, or sin without your knowledge. Imagine learning about the people whose harmful intentions never reached you because Allah blocked them. Imagine discovering the roads you never traveled that could have changed your life negatively forever. Allah's protection surrounds believers constantly, even during moments when they feel forgotten. And sometimes, when life does not go according to your plan, instead of immediately becoming angry or hopeless, perhaps the believer should pause and think, maybe Allah is protecting me from something I cannot yet see. Maybe the delay is mercy. Maybe the closed door is mercy. Maybe the heartbreak is mercy. Maybe Allah's invisible shield is surrounding me even now, while I struggle to understand His wisdom. There are moments in life when a person feels deeply disappointed because things did not happen the way they wanted. A door closes unexpectedly. A relationship ends. A dream falls apart. An opportunity disappears at the last moment. And naturally, the human heart begins asking questions. Why did Allah allow this to happen to me? Why did things not work out even after I prayed so much? Why does life feel so unfair? These thoughts enter the mind because human beings naturally become attached to their own plans. We imagine how our future should look. We create expectations in our hearts. We become emotionally invested in certain people, opportunities, and dreams. And when those things disappear, it feels painful. Sometimes it feels like life itself is breaking apart. But what believers must understand is that many disappointments, delays, and closed doors are not punishments from Allah at all. In reality, they are often forms of Allah's mercy and protection. The difficult part is that human beings can only see the present moment, while Allah sees the entire future. You may desperately want something today without realizing it would eventually hurt you tomorrow. You may cry over losing someone who would have damaged your peace, your faith, or your future later in life. You may feel angry because a certain opportunity did not work out, while Allah knew that path would have led you toward regret and pain. But because people only see the temporary disappointment, they struggle to recognize the hidden mercy behind it. There are people today who once cried for things they are now grateful they never received. At the time they thought their lives were ruined because something did not happen the way they wanted. They begged Allah for certain relationships, jobs, opportunities, or plans to work out. But years later, after seeing the reality clearly, they looked back and realized Allah was protecting them all along. What felt like rejection was actually mercy. What felt like loss was actually protection. Sometimes Allah closes doors because He knows what is behind them. Human beings judge things by appearance. Someone may appear kind, loving, and perfect on the outside, while secretly carrying intentions or characteristics that would eventually bring pain into your life. Allah sees what hearts hide. Allah knows conversations you never heard. Allah knows what people would eventually become. And because His knowledge is perfect, He sometimes removes people from your life before they can damage you deeply. This is especially difficult when emotions are involved. A person may become attached to someone so strongly that they cannot imagine life without them. When that relationship ends, the pain feels unbearable. The heart breaks. The person cries to Allah asking why things fell apart. But later in life, after seeing what Allah protected them from, they realize the heartbreak itself was mercy. Sometimes Allah removes people from your life because He loves you enough not to let them destroy your future. And it is not only relationships. Sometimes Allah delays success because the timing is not right. There are people who desperately want wealth, fame, or opportunities before they are spiritually or emotionally ready for them. If Allah gave them those things immediately, perhaps arrogance would enter their hearts. Perhaps they would become distracted from worship. Perhaps the blessing itself would slowly destroy them. So Allah delays certain things, not because He hates His servant, but because He is preparing them first. Human beings often think immediate results are always better. But Allah's wisdom operates beyond human understanding. A believer may pray for something for years while seeing no answer. During that waiting period, they feel frustrated and emotionally exhausted. Yet perhaps Allah is using the delay to strengthen their patience, deepen their faith, and purify their heart. Sometimes the waiting itself becomes part of the blessing. You know, many people only realize the beauty of Allah's plan after years have passed. At first, they cannot understand why life became difficult. But later they look back and see how perfectly Allah arranged everything. The job they did not get led them to something better. The relationship that ended protected them from future heartbreak. The hardship they experienced brought them closer to Allah. The delay that frustrated them prepared them emotionally for blessings they could not have handled earlier. This is why believers are taught to trust Allah, even when life becomes confusing. Trust does not mean you never feel sadness. Even the prophets experienced pain, heartbreak, and disappointment. But they never lost trust in Allah's wisdom. They understood that Allah's plan is always greater than human understanding. Look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. From the outside, his life seemed filled with painful disappointments. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a well, separated from his father, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned unfairly. Imagine how hopeless those moments must have felt from a human perspective. But every painful chapter was leading him toward the destiny Allah had written for him. If one piece of that painful journey had been removed, he would never have reached the position Allah prepared for him later. And this is how Allah's mercy often works in our own lives. What appears painful now may actually be guiding you towards something far better than you can currently imagine. The believer's job is not to understand every detail immediately. The believer's job is to trust Allah through the confusion. Sometimes Allah protects you by taking things away. And honestly, this is one of the hardest forms of mercy to recognize, because human beings become attached very quickly. When something leaves our lives, we immediately focus on the pain of losing it, instead of asking why Allah removed it. But Allah does not remove things without wisdom. Sometimes He removes distractions that were pulling your heart away from Him. Sometimes He removes unhealthy attachments so you can rely on Him more deeply. Sometimes He removes certain paths because they would have harmed your akhirah. There are also moments when Allah protects believers from sins through disappointments. A person may desperately want to enter an environment, relationship, or lifestyle that looks attractive on the surface, while Allah knows it would slowly weaken their faith and distance them from Him. So Allah closes the door, even if the person does not understand it at first. One of the biggest struggles people face today is comparing their lives to others. Social media makes it easy to feel left behind. People see others getting married, becoming successful, traveling, achieving dreams, and they begin wondering why their own life feels delayed or difficult. But what people fail to realize is that Allah writes different journeys for different souls. Just because someone else received something earlier does not mean it would have been good for you at the same time. Allah knows your heart better than you know yourself. He knows what will strengthen you and what will weaken you. He knows which blessings will bring you closer to Him and which ones may distract you completely. And because Allah cares more about your soul than temporary worldly comfort, He sometimes withholds things out of mercy. The beautiful thing about trusting Allah is that eventually peace enters the heart even before all the answers arrive. A believer learns to say, Ya Allah, if this is good for me, allow it. And if it is harmful for me, remove it from my life, even if my heart struggles to accept it. That kind of trust brings emotional freedom because the believer stops worshipping outcomes and starts trusting the wisdom of Allah instead. And perhaps some of the greatest blessings in your life are actually the things that never happened. The people who left, the plans that failed, the opportunities that disappeared, the doors that closed. Right now you may only see the disappointment, but one day Allah may show you the hidden mercy behind every painful moment. One day your heart may finally understand that Allah was protecting you in ways you never realized, even when life felt confusing, painful, and unfair.